I never thought I'd be the guy telling a story like this, but here I am, and honestly I feel like I need to get it out, sort of like a purge. My name's Mike. I married Lisa about 3 years ago, and for the most part things seemed perfect, or at least normal enough. She was beautiful, smart, funny, stuff I thought I'd spend the rest of my life cherishing. We had this plan, kids, a house in the suburbs, maybe a dog. It was supposed to be this fairy tale. But that damn day changed everything. It was my brother's wedding. I was excited, proud even, watching him up there with his bride, feeling a little proud of how far we'd all come. Lisa was dressed to kill, smiling like a goddess. The whole family was there, everyone excited, the air thick with anticipation and champagne. I remember standing in line with my brother, clapping him on the back, feeling like the happiest guy in the world. Then I saw her. Or more specifically, I saw her with him, the best friend I'd known since college, Jason. They had been close for years, but I never figured anything beyond friendly was going on. Until that moment. When I turned my head, I saw her leaning into him, whispering right there in front of everyone. Her hand was on his arm and she was laughing. Not just a polite laugh, but a full-blown, intimate kind. The kind that makes your stomach turn cold and your skin crawl. My heart kicked up a notch and I froze, feeling like the ground had shifted under my feet. I could see her face clearly from where I was standing, her eyes sparkling, her lips curling into a smile that didn't quite reach her eyes. It was the kind of smile that's so fake, it's almost sad. She looked happy, but it wasn't for me. It was for him. I clenched my fists so hard I felt my nails digging into my palms. Everyone else was oblivious, caught up in the wedding buzz, but I saw it. The secret knowings, the underlying lie. I kept telling myself, maybe I'm mistaken, but deep down I knew, I just knew. That's when the red flags popped up like neon signs. She'd been acting a little distant lately. She'd cancel plans, say she was tired or work late, but that day everything clicked. The way she looked at him, God, that look, was 1,000 times worse than I'd imagined. I couldn't ignore it anymore. That's when I decided I had to find out for sure. Later that night I followed her. It's not something I'm proud of, but I was desperate. I knew she'd be with him, so I waited outside their hotel. When she stepped out, I recognized her perfume, a sickly sweet thing that made my stomach churn. She looked around nervously, clutching her purse like it was her lifeline. She didn't see me at first, but I saw her, clear as day. I felt my blood boil. I wanted to scream, to throw something, but I kept it together. I confronted her right there, standing in the dim glow of the streetlights. "Who is he, Lisa? What's going on?" I demanded. She froze, her eyes wide, trying to fake innocence. "Mike, it's not what you think. It's just Jason, nothing serious." "Nothing serious." "Then why does your perfume smell like his cologne? Why were you holding his hand at the reception?" My voice was tight, shaky with rage. She hesitated, then looked away. "I'm sorry, I didn't mean for you to find out like this." That's when I noticed her phone in her hand, text messages, photos, everything. Their secret was laid bare before me. I felt like someone had punched me in the gut, but I held my ground. I needed to see if this was just a fling or something more. I took her phone. No words. I needed proof to show her I knew. I knew I had to do something, something to make her regret every smile, every lie, every betrayal. This wasn't just about the cheating, it was about the sickening sense of betrayal. As I turned to walk away, I saw her break down, a little, tears streaming down her face. But I couldn't feel sorry for her. Not anymore. I knew what I had to do. I just didn't know if I was ready for the fallout. And honestly, I was, but I had to do something. I had to make her pay. I didn't sleep that night. The image of her with Jason kept replaying in my head, her laughing, touching him, that damn fake smile. I kept rubbing my palms on my jeans, trying to wipe the sweat and the feeling of betrayal. Every time I closed my eyes, I saw her face, the tears, that sneaky look she gave me when I caught her. It was as if my stomach had been knotted up in 1,000 different ways, and I felt the urge to do something, anything, to even the score. I knew I had the evidence now. Her phone was in my possession, and I'd seen enough to know what I needed to do. Revenge was starting to look like the only way to regain some sense of control. I wasn't a violent guy, but I was furious, felt like my insides were boiling over, ready to spill out in every direction. I wanted her to suffer just a little for all the times she'd lied and smiled like she was innocent. The next morning, I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at her phone. I ran my finger over the screen, hesitating. Part of me wanted to just delete everything, keep my dignity intact. But the other part, it pushed me to do something darker. I scrolled through their messages, the exchanges full of flirtation and promises I knew she'd never tell me about. It was all there, her words, her secrets. I felt my jaw tighten as I read each one, a mixture of disgust and determination. I didn't want to just confront her again. I wanted to hit her where it hurt. That's when I started planning. I knew I had the leverage and I was going to use it. I set my mind on a slow, calculated revenge. I wanted her to feel the sting of betrayal, not just get caught and humiliated. I wanted to make her regret every moment she played me for a fool. I spent the day gathering information, talking to people I knew, mutual friends, even a few who owed me favors. I needed to know her routines, her habits, her contacts. I wanted to catch her off guard, unprepared for what I was about to do. It was all about precision now. I wasn't going to let her see me coming. That afternoon, I met up with Jason. I wasn't interested in hurting anyone physically, but I wanted him to understand what he'd done. I told him straightforward, if you think this is just harmless fun, you're dead wrong. Stay away from her or we're going to have bigger problems. He looked surprised, then defensive. Hey man, I didn't mean for this to get out of hand. Lisa's been distant, she looked at me differently lately. I didn't think. You didn't think? I cut him off sharply. That's the problem. She's married and you're just some side piece. I'll make sure you regret crossing that line. I could see the flicker of guilt in his eyes, but I didn't care. I knew what I had to do next. I wanted to confront Lisa on my terms when she least expected it, with everything laid out bare. I was going to show her I wasn't the fool she thought I was. I wanted her to feel exposed, betrayed, and helpless. That evening I set my trap. I left her phone on the kitchen counter unlocked. I knew she'd find it. I knew she'd see the messages, the photos, the evidence I'd collected. I wanted her to realize I knew everything, not just the superficial stuff, but the details that cut deep. She needed to understand that I wasn't going to turn a blind eye anymore. When she finally saw her phone, her face went pale and her hands started trembling. I watched her from across the room, arms crossed, waiting for her reaction. Her eyes darted across the screen, then shot up to meet mine, full of panic. You knew, she whispered, voice trembling. Oh, I knew, I said calmly. Now you get to see what it feels like to be caught, and trust me, this is just the beginning. I saw her swallow hard, trying to compose herself, but I could tell she was crumbling inside. I wasn't done, far from it. The game was on, and I had a plan. All I needed now was her response, her confession, or whatever she'd choose to give me. Either way, I was ready. The ball was in her court, and I was about to make sure she paid for every lie, every smile, every broken promise she'd handed me. The next few days were a blur of calculated moves. I kept my cool on the surface, but inside, every nerve was tight, wound so tight I felt like I was about to snap. I knew I had her by the throat now. She'd seen the evidence, and I could tell she was panicking. I wanted her to feel that panic, that helplessness I'd been carrying around since I first saw her in Jason's arms. I didn't want her to think this was some knee-jerk reaction. I wanted her to realize that I'd been planning this for days, maybe longer. I stayed quiet, watching her from a distance, waiting for her to unravel. It was almost like I was letting her hang herself, and I wasn't going to stop her from doing it. One evening, she finally snapped. She came home late, smelling like perfume and regret. Her face was flushed, eyes puffy, and she avoided my gaze like it was a loaded gun. I sat at the kitchen table, pretending to be busy with work, but my ears were tuned in. She broke the silence first. Mike, I'm sorry. I never wanted you to see. I didn't mean for it to get so out of hand. Really? That's your excuse after everything? I kept my voice even, but the edge was there. I wanted her to know I wasn't playing around anymore. She looked down, twisting her hands nervously. It just happened. It was a mistake. I was confused. I didn't think it would go this far. I stood up slowly, feeling the weight of every word I'd been holding back. A mistake? You think cheating on me at my brother's wedding with my best friend is just a mistake? You think I don't see the pattern? Her eyes flickered with guilt, but she tried to justify herself. It was a moment of weakness, I swear. I love you, I still do. I don't believe you, I said coldly. Not anymore. My stomach was twisting, but I forced myself to stay calm. I needed her to see she couldn't just say sorry and move on, that she'd crossed a line from which there was no return. That night I stayed awake, planning. I'd had enough of her lies, enough of the fake smiles. This was going to end, and not with tears or apologies. I was done being the naive husband. I wanted her to feel the sting, see her life unravel a little at a time. So I came up with a plan. I'd make her think she was getting away with everything, that she'd fooled me. I'd give her enough rope to hang herself, but I'd be waiting for the moment to strike back. The key was patience, patience and a lot of subtlety. I started by digging into her contacts. I knew her secret was out there, buried in her phone, somewhere she'd keep it safe, but not safe enough. I sent a few discreet messages, nothing too obvious, just enough to make her paranoid. I wanted her to realize I was onto her, to see her start to crack. Every time she tried to deny it, I just smiled and kept my composure. Then I did something even smarter. I set up a fake account, a burner, and started messaging Jason directly. I kept it casual at first, pretending to be someone from her social circle. I needed to bait him, see if he'd slip up and confirm my suspicions. If I got him to admit to their affair, I'd have him on record, no question. Soon enough, Jason bit. He started talking like we'd known each other for years, revealing little things about Lisa, her fears, her hopes, her secret moments. It was all there. That's when I knew I had what I needed. I had the ammunition to destroy her, piece by piece, if I wanted. I sat on the edge of my bed, staring at the messages, feeling furious and cold all at once. I knew what I'd do next. I'd confront her again, but this time with everything laid bare, no room for her to lie her way out. She'd be cornered, and I'd be the one with the power. I looked at her, sleeping peacefully that night, oblivious to the storm brewing. I could see her chest rise and fall, innocent in her dreams. But I knew the truth. I knew what she'd done, and I wasn't about to let her get away with it. This was just the beginning. I was biding my time, waiting for the perfect moment. And when I finally made my move, she'd wish she'd never crossed me. The waiting game was the hardest part. Every moment I wasn't confronting her or executing my plan felt like 1,000 knives stabbing at my patience. I kept my focus sharp, watching her every move, listening for the slightest hint of guilt or panic. I didn't want to rush. Revenge is a delicate art, and I needed every detail to align perfectly. I kept up the illusion of normalcy around the house, but inside, I was a mess of nerves. I'd set up my phone to record her when she didn't know, just to catch her reactions. I wasn't planning to just confront her. I wanted her to slip up, to slip into a lie so I could catch her in the act of lying. One afternoon, I saw her fumble with her purse, an unusual nervousness in her movements. She was trying to hide something. I watched her from across the room, barely breathing, feeling my palms sweat again. She had her phone out and she was typing something quickly, then locking it away like she was trying to hide evidence from me. I couldn't resist. I stepped in slowly. "What's going on?" I asked casually, trying to hide the edge in my voice. She froze, then forced a smile. "Nothing, just organizing some things." "Really? Because it looks like you're hiding something," I said, my eyes narrowing. I reached out and gently took her phone from her hands. Her face went white, like I'd just caught her doing something terrible. "Mike, don't," she started, but I wasn't listening. I unlocked her phone and saw a message that made my stomach drop. It was from Jason, just a few words, but enough to blow everything wide open. "Can't wait to see you tonight. Keep your phone close." The timestamp was recent, minutes old. My pulse pounded in my ears. I looked up at her, anger simmering just beneath the surface. "So this is what you're hiding?" I asked, voice cold. She looked like she wanted to cry, but she also looked surprised, like she hadn't expected me to find this. "It's not what it looks like," she whispered. "Oh. Because it looks exactly like you're planning to meet him tonight," I snapped. "You've been lying this whole time, haven't you?" Her face crumpled. She looked like she wanted to run, to vanish into thin air. "Mike, I swear." "No, Lisa, I've had enough." I felt my hands trembling, but I kept my voice steady. "You want to cheat? Fine. But I'm done pretending. I've got the proof, and I'm not going to let you walk away without consequences." Her eyes welled with tears, and that's when I knew I had her exactly where I wanted her. I pressed the phone into her hand. "Read that." Then tell me what you have to say. She stared at the screen, trembling, then whispered, "It's not what you think. I was going to tell you. Save it." I cut her off. "You lied your way through everything. You thought you could just hide this, slip away, and I'd never find out. Well, I did, and now I'm done." I turned away, feeling a mix of satisfaction and dread. I'd finally caught her, but I knew this wasn't about to end quietly. Later that night, I sat in the dark, replaying everything, planning my next move. I knew I had to be strategic, hit her where it hurts without giving her the chance to spin more lies. I'd set her up, corner her, and then, well, I'd see how far she was willing to go to deny everything. Because once I exposed her fully, she'd have no choice but to face what she'd done. The question was, how much damage was I willing to do to make her feel it? And more importantly, could I go through with it? I already felt my stomach twist every time I thought about her tears, her desperation. But I reminded myself, this was justice, pure and simple, and she had earned every second of it. I was just waiting for the right moment, and when it came, I'd be ready. The days that followed were a slow, tense countdown. Every hour felt like a minute, every minute a lifetime. I kept my composure in public, kept up the appearance of being the same husband she thought she knew. But inside, I was sharpening my plan, waiting for her to slip up again. I knew she'd try to deny it, spin a new story, or pretend everything was fine. That's just what she did, lie her way out of trouble. I spent most of my free time researching, gathering every piece of dirt I could find. I wanted to make sure that when I finally confronted her, I had everything locked down tight. I started thinking about how to make her realize I was serious, that I wasn't going to be played anymore. I needed her to understand that her lies had consequences, big ones. One evening, I came home early from work. I'd arranged for a friend to watch the house just in case. The plan was simple. I wanted her to think she had a few more hours of cover, a bit more time to get ready for her secret rendezvous. But I wasn't going to give her that chance. No, I was going to catch her red-handed in the act with her phone or her bags or whatever she thought was private. She was in the kitchen pretending to tidy up, but I could see her hands shaking. She'd been trying to hide her nervousness, but it was obvious she was on edge. I kept my tone light, almost conversational. "Hey, honey, how's your night looking? Anything exciting?" She looked up, forcing a small smile. "Nothing much, just the usual. Why?" "Oh, no reason," I said, leaning casually against the counter. "Just wondering if you're planning to keep secrets from me." Her eyes darted away. She was about to lie again, I could tell. I took a step closer, feeling my heart pounding. "I saw the message, Lisa, the one from Jason. You're planning to meet him tonight." Her face went pale. "Mike, I didn't mean for you to see that." "Too late," I said, voice steady. "It's all over now. I know everything." Her shoulders sagged and she looked defeated. That's when I pulled out the final piece of my plan. I found her secret stash hidden in her jewelry box, an envelope with receipts from a hotel, a handful of her clothes, and a small bag she'd been hiding. "I want you to see this," I said, holding it out. "You've been lying for weeks, and now I want to know why." She broke down then, tears spilling over, voice trembling. "I don't know what I was thinking. I got lost, confused. I didn't mean to hurt you. Please, I'm sorry." I cut her off with a sharp look. "Sorry isn't enough anymore. You've betrayed me in the worst way, and I've spent enough time trying to pretend this didn't happen." Her face crumpled into full-blown tears. "Please, Mike, I love you. I never wanted to lose everything we had." I took a deep breath. The anger was still there, but I knew I had to stay in control. I looked her straight in the eyes. "You want to keep pretending everything's okay? Fine. But I'm not going to be your fool anymore. You've made your choice, and I've made mine." That night I handed her the keys to her phone and her car. I told her I didn't want to see her again until she sorted herself out, until she truly understood what she'd lost. I told her she was free to run, but I wasn't going to chase her. After she left, I sat alone in the silence. My mind raced with everything I'd done, everything I'd planned. I felt a strange mix of relief and emptiness. I'd finally taken control, finally ended the charade. But I also knew that the fallout was only just beginning. Looking back, I realized I didn't expect this to turn out easy. I knew I'd have to live with the consequences, whatever they were. But at least now I wasn't the pawn anymore. I was the one who finally decided the game was over. And that, I think, is the hardest thing to accept, taking back your power when everything around you is falling apart. Do you want me to continue with the final part? The silence afterward was deafening. I stayed in my house that night, staring at the empty doorway, feeling the weight of what I'd done settle over me. It was like a storm inside my chest, relief, anger, sadness all tangled together. I'd finally done what I needed to do, made my stand, cut her loose. But beneath that, there was an odd sense of clarity, too. I realized I'd been living in a fog of lies for too long. The next morning, I walked to the local courthouse and filed for divorce. It was a straightforward process, nothing dramatic, just a clear statement of what was happening. I handed over the papers, signed my name, and watched as my old life slipped away. I didn't cry, I didn't yell. I just felt a numbness, like I'd been through a war and was finally coming home, battered but alive. When I returned home, I packed a small bag. I left her a note on the kitchen table. "We're done. Don't contact me. I hope you find what you're looking for." I put the keys on top of it, then walked out and shut the door behind me. I didn't look back. I didn't need to. The aftermath was quiet but definitive. Friends and family reached out, some surprised, some not. I told only a few close ones what really happened, enough to clear the air but not drag everything out. I needed to reclaim my dignity, not drown in a pool of bitterness. I felt lighter somehow, even if my heart still ached. In the weeks that followed, I focused on rebuilding. I started going to therapy, talking about what I'd gone through, trying to understand how someone I loved could betray me so deeply. It wasn't easy. There were nights I woke up with nightmares, visions of her smiling with Jason, of the lies I'd uncovered. But with time, the sting lessened. I learned that revenge, while satisfying in the moment, was only part of the healing process. Looking back, I realized I wasn't just fighting for my marriage. I was fighting for my self-respect, for my sanity. I learned that sometimes the best revenge is walking away with your head held high, forgiving yourself for feeling hurt, and moving on to a better life. To anyone out there who's dealt with betrayal, whether it's cheating, lies, or any kind of deception, hear what I've learned. You don't have to stay silent. You don't have to accept the pain. Sometimes the most powerful thing you can do is take control and walk away. Because at the end of the day, your happiness and integrity are worth more than any lie or betrayal. And yeah, it hurts. It'll sting for a while, but eventually the wounds heal. You'll find strength you didn't know you had. And maybe, just maybe, you'll discover that the best revenge is living well without them.